The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is back on the air. Thank you for joining us if you're catching us via the pod. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation in the chat room on all the different little social media gems, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn. We do it all generally Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Central if you want to be a part of the conversation. Like Brad, who's already firing out a good evening, gents. You can do it. A lot to get to here on our, 103rd edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. And the Chiefs offense finally figured out 400 plus from Patrick Mahomes. Sure looked like it. Why did the Chargers try to cover Travis Kelce? Mecole Hardman, is that going to end up being a sneaky good deal? Do the legal problems for Justyn Ross make him the odd man out at wide receiver? Is the real Chiefs defense the first or second half against the Chargers? Charles Omenihu, is he the final piece of a championship defense? The secondary, how really good is it? Is the AFC West race over? We're talking about it all, plus predictions for the Chiefs and Broncos. It's next right here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You're listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Eric Eager is the vice president of research and development for Sumer Sports. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro.
And thank you very much, Curtis. Appreciate the wonderful introduction there. Jeff Chadiha, NFL Network, Eric Eager, Sumer Sports. I'm Soren Petro. Thanks for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. And gentlemen, a lot
one thing, Petro, first.
Yeah.
I just found out on Twitter that Curtis is never had Indian food. I feel like as one of his best friends, you need to intervene here.
Not a fan of curry, so can't help him on that. I will not be the guy to fix that little dilemma there for our buddy Curtis. That's going to have to be you next time you're in town. It's not my cup of tea, but appreciate you thinking of the big guy.
Oh yeah, always.
He appreciates it. I'll let him know next time. Look, 6-1, flying high are the Kansas City Chiefs, a 14-point win against the Los Angeles Chargers. Jeff, let's start with you. Looking pretty good for these Kansas City Chiefs right now. Has the offense finally figured it out? 424, 4 touchdowns, 32 of 42 for Patrick Mahomes. We've been waiting for that big day. We've seen the defense maybe kind of carrying it. Is this the worst thing that could happen to the rest of the National Football League? The offense is getting back to being what Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have been for their entire marriage.
It looked that way. I mean, certainly that's the way you want to play against a division rival in a nationally televised game, a marquee game on that 3:00 window. You know, it was a baffling game for me. Like, certainly it was a game that spoke to where the Chiefs are at and where the Chargers are at. It's just weird to imagine, and we saw this with the Broncos last week, that you come into a game and your whole game plan revolves around not covering Travis Kelce. Like, I just don't understand, how that happens. I turned the game on late. I was out of town and caught I think it was the first quarter or early second quarter. And it was just like 150 yard receiving in the first 20 minutes of the game. I don't understand that, but it did feel as if I saw two things in that first half. One, I saw Mahomes playing like Mahomes, the offense really firing on cylinders. It looked like what you would expect from a team that had 10 days to prepare and a team that had 6 days to prepare for the game. But even more so, it just felt like the Chargers were very passive in how they defended the Chiefs. And that, to me, was very surprising. And I know that Tony Romo mentioned in the broadcast, and you look at the way these teams have played each other the last few years with Brandon Staley as the head coach, they've played fairly well defensively. and ended up losing at the end. So I said it in the radio show this morning with Steven and Nate on the morning show on your air. It's just that it felt like something broke in the Chargers in that game. And I think it might have been the second half when they weren't able to capitalize on some things. But this was a team that had a lot of expectations around it. And now they feel like a team that's going to be 6-11 or 7-10. It just, the Chiefs, I think, proved that they're going to, AFC West gets over, but the Chargers were certainly very fallible, had a lot of self-inflicted wounds in that game as well.
Yeah. Is that, I am baffled. Listen, I see some of the comments. People are like, well, we're finding a way to be negative about
That's not negative.
I think, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, listen, I'm baffled by it. I don't understand how he is that wide open all the time. I mean, what is it? I give credit to Patrick Mahomes. First, Travis Kelce. Second, Andy Reid. Or maybe second, Patrick Mahomes. Third, Andy Reid. There's clearly Matt Nagy. Throw them all in there. I'm not trying to leave anybody out who would be a part of the conversation. They're clearly brilliant at what they do. All right?
Oh.
Because I remember going on shows, Eric, I mean, maybe you and I even talked about it, and saying to people like, hey, when the Chiefs didn't throw a touchdown to a wide receiver, I said, that they have nothing at wide receiver, yet Travis Kelce will be high school wide open 3 times in this game.
Yeah.
Right? Andy Reid just gets him open, but it was staggering how bad the Chargers were in the first half.
Yeah. There's a comment here that was pretty good. It says by Rhett Frergo, who's one of our frequent listeners. He says, not versus man defense. Wide receivers can't separate. I think we're getting it all wrong. I do agree that Kelce was wide open a few times, but I don't disagree with defensive coordinators running zone against the Chiefs, because I think that, and Sam has gone on your airwaves and talked about this, but the wide receiver, Sam McDowell, the columnist for the Kansas City Star, a good friend of ours. But I do think that the wide receivers' inexperience is their biggest issue, not their inability to get open. When teams have man covered the Chiefs in the past, the Bengals, Valdez-Scantling had 200 yards and a touchdown in those 2 Bengals games. I don't think the Chiefs' lack of athleticism at wide receiver is the problem. I think it's a lack of, moving around with Pat. We saw one of the big improvements on Sunday was Rashee Rice and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, when Patrick Mahomes was moving around, finally ran with the quarterback and not to Oberlin, to the Kansas side of Kansas City. That was a revelation. The issue with them not being able to cover Kelce is obviously is tricky. I also think that on film, Kelce has not looked healthy all year, and he finally did. And so there was a little bit of underestimating him. But I do think these teams have said, okay, we can run man coverage and Patrick can throw it over the top of our head or run for first downs and all that kind of stuff. Or we can run zone and hope that a wide receiving core that has not been reliable, has not been consistent, has not been on the same page as their quarterback in a lot of the two-way routes, and hope that they make one mistake per drive. And frankly, in the second half of the game, they did. The Chiefs scored 1 touchdown in the second half of that game.
Yeah.
I think that the running zone against the Chiefs is the right thing. It's just that the Chargers, even when they might make right choices, somehow manage to bleep it up every time. So it's a combination of those 2 things.
I do get, and listen, I'm all for bombing the Chargers. I thought there were some perplexing things like 15 seconds. I mean, you're playing the team that tied a divisional playoff game in 13 seconds.
You have a $50 million quarterback, and you're taking a knee at the end of the half.
Agreed. I don't understand that with a kicker who just kicked from 55, and it looked like it would have been good from 65 earlier in the half. I don't know what the hell he's doing. I mean, this was a game I have felt a need to defend Brandon Staley at other times. this is the one where I eject and be like, I don't know what's going on there. Like it's not a plan. And I think it's okay to say that if you're a Chiefs fan. This is not to diminish what the Chiefs are doing. They do that to people. They bring up your warts. They exploit them. This is what good football teams do. It's what the Patriots did. They don't necessarily have to split an atom out on the field. It doesn't have to be that every play that the Chiefs ran was the greatest player ever, or every player's the greatest player ever. They find what sucks in you and they shine a light on it. And the Chiefs do that to the Chargers. They do it to the entire AFC West. They do it to almost all of the NFL, almost all of the time. You know, I'll bring it back, Jeff, to, though, is this the moment where the offense found its rhythm and the NFL has to acknowledge, to use Eric Eager's term, this is their Super Bowl. Doesn't mean they're going to win it, but this season the team is going to be the Chiefs all the way to the end.
I think it's a little bit early for that. I mean, there's a lot of parity in the league this year. And to go back to, I didn't see who said we're being negative. I'm a Michigan fan. I went to Michigan. I went to the Michigan State this game this weekend. Michigan destroyed Michigan State. Michigan hadn't played anybody this year. As much as I want to celebrate Michigan and say they're the best team in the country, nobody's going to beat them. I still acknowledge that they've beaten UNLV and Bowling Green and Rutgers, teams that are not very good. So it's okay to say, look, the competition wasn't great. But yeah, I think the Chiefs are certainly, if you're picking a team right now, you're picking them, but they haven't gotten to the hard part of their schedule yet. And so as much as I like what they're doing and what they've done, they've only beaten one team with a winning record right now. So that should be part of the conversation as well. I think you'll have a better sense of where they rank when they're playing the Eagles, when they're playing the Bengals, when they're playing the Bills, when they're playing teams that have better quarterbacks, better offenses, who are really, and go back to the Chargers comment, who are really better coached right now. Like I'll say it again. Brandon Staley is not going to be the Chargers head coach next season. That might be the game that gets him fired.
Can we clear this up? Were you the guy sending the signals? You said you're at the Michigan State game. Were you in one of those seats? Can we clear
no signals needed for that game?
Yeah. Don't even get me started.
Do that. Yeah.
Don't even get me started.
No signals are needed, by the way, in like 85% of college football games.
Yeah.
When Nebraska is facing Michigan, no one needs any signals. It's just roll the ball out there.
Well, how about
the best team win?
Yeah. How about this is the only level of football where you can't go to an opposing team's game and watch them and scout them. I don't understand that rule.
It is the dumbest. Listen, put receivers in the quarterback's helmets. Or disguise your signs. What are you doing here? It's on to anyone in the stadium can see it. Like it's the dumbest thing ever. I can't figure out how the Astros were a big deal. Come on.
Well, I think the Astros thing was because of the stuff they put in their jerseys. Like
I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I think there are levels to this. I think the issue, though, is Dabo Sweeney is starting to see that Jesus Christ is not going to help him solve the issue of NIL, and the guy out in Alabama's lost his fastball, and everybody's looking at Michigan and being like, "Oh shit, that team's a house. We got to somehow stop this." Yeah. Like I think they're starting to come after the top dog in college football. I think that's all that is.
Yeah. Listen, this was domination again of the Chargers. By the way, we're brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater KC area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Got my Gann long-sleeve T-shirt on. Perfect for the fall weather that we've got going on. They're perfect for your parking lot. Don't let parking issues be a problem for your business. Stay focused on what it is you do with free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Nobody will help you out like Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Go to GannAsphalt.com. Is Mecole Hardman, is this addition, Jeff, going to prove to be, kind of a crafty one that other teams are going to regret that they allowed the Chiefs to make?
I thought when they brought him in and he replaced the previous punt returner, that made sense. I don't see him having a huge impact on the offense. I know he caught a pass late in that game. But if you're saying you're adding him to a kicking game that already has the best punter in the league and one of the best kickers, one of the biggest legs in the league, that's a nice boost. And so I do feel as if Andy Reid and Brett Beecher are saying, let's round this out and let's give ourselves another option to give us some field position, to give our offense a boost. That punt return he had certainly was a huge play in a game that was still close and open it up gave them a chance to open it up. And that's what he can do. I think it's interesting now that with Justin Watson hurt and Justyn Ross in this situation, how he's going to have an opportunity to really affect the offense. Referring back to Sam McDowell, I do find it funny that when he left town, everybody was happy to see him go. Now that he's back, he's like the savior.
The best quote was everybody here talked about how he didn't know the offense, and then when he came back, everybody's like, "Well, at least he knows the offense." It's like for 4 years, everybody talked about how he didn't know how to run the route tree and stuff.
Yeah, but it is different. And listen, Sam and I got into it about Hardman a couple of weeks ago when he was on the market. I'm like, why wouldn't you? I do think, and we discussed it on this podcast, he upgrades whatever your lowest receiver is. That's what it's about. Do you get a little bit better? If you can get 1% better every day, 100 days down the road, you're 100% better. Like, if you got a chance to get better, and the cost was nothing, he comes in at a league minimum. I think that's the part that other people know. Like, well, get Frank Clark and now trade for Gesicki. Today I had a guy tell me they need to go get Derrick Henry, Gesicki, and
DeAndre Hopkins.
Just fill
it all out.
Just redo some contracts.
That's right.
I was like,
just sell Boardwalk and Park Place, and we'll get them just fine.
Well, he's the one guy. He's the one guy on the Chiefs that knows how to run the jet sweep,
right? But
and when you think about, I think Pacheco has run really hard, and for the most part has been a good back this year. But if you widened out the field a little bit with Hardman, I do think Pacheco would be able to get bigger holes and stuff like that. I do think that there are aspects of the Chiefs offense that no one's afraid of Sky Moore, no one's afraid of Kadarius Toney on the jet stuff. And, that will help them in the red zone and short yardage. Short yardage has been the moon to this team for basically as long as Hardman's been out, all of last year for half the year and then this year. So I do think he helps. I don't think I think the other story maybe we want to talk is they consolidated the wide receiver snaps on Sunday. It was MVS, it was Sky Moore, and it was Rashee Rice all playing about 40 snaps. I think that's a big story too, is that it's also kind of solidified Kadarius Toney's lack of role in this offense. It's Justyn Ross wasn't much of anything anyway, and now that's probably going to go away. So it's kind of solidified the roles in the offense too.
Yeah. Listen, I also want to point out he was the problem when he left, and now he's the solution when he comes back. Well, he was carrying around being a second-round pick that was drafted in front of DK Metcalf. And while that was true, it's no longer true as the price to acquire him. Now the price to acquire him is just a 6-for-7 swap. So the expectations are different. To live up to what it is they paid for him, all he has to do is, as somebody said, I put up the comment, make 2, 3, 4 plays over the course of the year, and everybody would be like, yeah, that was worth it. So the expectations are different now that you've bought in this time for much cheaper.
Who was the guy they had a few years ago when Mahomes first started playing? Who was DeAnthony something, or I can't remember his name, but he was supposed to be this.
Thomas.
Yeah, DeAnthony Thomas. He's DeAnthony Thomas, right? That's what he is.
Yeah.
You take away the second round pick and all this stuff. He's like a gadget dude who returns kicks and makes a play every 3 or 4 games.
But I'll stick up for him a little bit. And trust me, nobody drove me more crazy than Mecole Hardman. I mean, you see Pat always talking to him turn it in. You can always see where he was frustrated. He can't judge a fly ball to save his ass. I mean, I'm going to say that. It's for as fast as he is, it's stunning how many punts hit the ground when he's back there. But if he can get to it, he's dangerous when he gets his hands on the ball. And I think he's definitively, and I know you know this, he's definitively better receiver than DeAnthony Thomas. He's not a great receiver, but DeAnthony Thomas was literally nothing but catch the ball. But I mean, I think, isn't this somewhat a little bit of an indictment about Kadarius Toney? Kadarius Toney can get open down the field, but he can't catch it. So the only way he can catch it is if it's a little, chip shot. Mark Boerick, used to play for the Chiefs, does pregame with me at 8:10. He drives him crazy about how he won't go fight for the ball. And you saw that on the interception. He did grab the arm a little bit, but he's not perfect, but he's better than whatever the bottom rung of the ladder was. So they got better. That's all this move was made.
Yeah. And I agree with you. He's always had value. And I think that they recognize that. I think now we're seeing why the Giants dumped Toney. It wasn't just the injury problems. It was that he's just not a very good player for any kind of offense. If Andy Reid can't find a way to make it work with him, then it really is, he really is, not somebody who you should keep around your roster. But I would say that the bigger thing that I see with this offense that is helping them, and I'll be curious to see how it plays out over the course of the season. I still feel like defenses play them with the fear of Mahomes' ability to make plays. Like, that's what drives it. It's not. It's like, I think they're afraid. Like we were saying about Kelce, it's like they're afraid to double Kelce and leave the middle of the field open because he might go deep. I think if you're a defensive coordinator, you probably want throw the ball to MVS. Let's go. Let's give that a shot, as opposed to letting Kelce just kill us with 1,000 paper cuts.
That being said, Jeff, every time a team has dared them to do that, MVS has killed them. The Niners last year had the 100-yard game, and they were playing the safeties up. The Bengals in the conference title game Sunday against. I mean, I think you're right. That is the gamble I would make. But I also think that if you're making a guess against the Chiefs, and this has been all the way back to 2021, you're hoping that they make one stupid mistake, gaining 5 yards at a time. And to your point about Mahomes, like Mahomes' biggest plays now are when they actually run man coverage or they pattern match and they're all backs are turned and Pat takes off for a 25-yard gain. Those are the most explosive plays this offense has sometimes. And like, so we all talk about the zones and like, why is Kelce wide open? It's exactly what you said, Jeff. They're afraid of Mahomes over the top, but also running for first downs against them. It's not. I don't think that there is actually a good way to stop this offense.
Well, the Chargers definitely don't know it. We know that. Justyn Ross's name was brought up. Jeff, is this it for Justyn Ross? Listen, he's innocent until proven guilty. There are accusations against him. Charges have been filed. He was released as we sit here today. Theoretically, I believe he'll be at practice tomorrow, and December 5th is his next court date. I assume a continuance will be filed to get through the end of the season, and this will all get adjudicated in the offseason, or am I reading this wrong?
Possibly. I mean, it depends on how quickly things move along, but just any domestic issue in the NFL is going to lead to some kind of punitive reaction from the league. I mean, they've made that a priority. You saw with Charles Omenihu. You saw with Willie Gay last year. It seems like, I don't know exactly what the details are of this, but it seems like it'd be the same spectrum of that kind of, went in there, tore some crap up, and, one was involved. I don't think that he's going to escape a suspension of some kind, but I agree. I don't think he's got a real place in this offense moving forward anyway. I mean, he's a nice story, and, people thought he could become something, but if he hasn't cracked the lineup now, given all the opportunities to play and make plays, I just don't see where they believe that much in him anyway.
Yeah, I don't know that he made the team if Jody Fortson was healthy, right? Like, I think that was kind of the vision they saw. Well, if we need a jump ball guy down in the end zone, if Fortson had been healthy, I wonder if he would have even been on this team. Listen, Buddy Bell, I quoted this today, said it. He was being pulled off of one of his players when he was managing the Kansas City Royals, and he said, "Renelvis, you're not good enough to be an AH," right? Like, and that's an adage in sports. Like, we'll deal with your drama, like if you're good, and that's not just sports. That's in all of life. You're the top sales guy selling BMWs. You sell more BMWs than anybody else, and you got some issues at work. We'll deal with it a little bit. You're the worst salesman. You're gone. We ain't got time to deal with your ass, right? He ain't the top salesman. We know that. Like, is this, Eric, something that they ought to be just washing their hands and, okay, we gave it a try, we worked on it, but if you're going to put us through this, we're out?
Yeah, I think that it's probably just good to, cut bait, but they are a team, they moved on from Kareem Hunt, but that was a couple instances in. It was like, they are a team that is more welcoming to players who have had issues, right? Like that is, Frank Clark and Tyreek Hill and it's Kareem Hunt. It's been like they've had their Willie Gay, right? Like beat up a classmate in college and stuff. And like for the most part, like Frank Clark stayed out of trouble. Willie Gay, had an incident that ultimately got him suspended. But for the most part, like, I think that they take pride in like developing these people, the guys as people. The one thing that I'm interested in is like, is Justyn Ross was Justyn Ross a social media invention more than he was like an actual player like that they want to keep around. Because I think that's like where if he's actually a player they want to keep around, then I think they slow play this. If he's more of like a social media invention that they're trying to move on from, right? Somebody who put up a lot of highlights in training camp and stuff, then maybe this is the excuse. I'm interested to see. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, I do believe in the I think it was Tina who said you can have one per team who need extra attention.
Yeah. Herm Edwards rule.
Herm Edwards, yeah. He said 2. I think his number was 2. My guys, which I always love that story. And the question is, do you actually spend that spot here on Justyn Ross? I think the answer is no. But a very good point. Bob did say, listen, Tyreek's situation taught us to wait and get the whole story. Absolutely. 100% agree. We need to get it. But Justyn Ross is a guy that could have been cut at any time.
Yeah.
Right. He was the bottom wide receiver by my estimation on this team. So when you get Mecole Hardman, you may be simply, a healthy Nick Bolton away from somebody needing to be cut. And Justyn Ross may be that guy, guilty or not, he's put himself in a bad situation, put the team in a bad situation. And yeah, we don't know the circumstances. That'll be decided by the law, and that's whether or not he goes to jail or pays fines or all the things that go with that. But if you're a team, headaches are headaches.
Yeah.
That's the difference here. I mean, does anybody show of hands? Who thinks Justyn Ross is going to be a 750-5 guy, 750 yards and 5 touchdown guy at any point during his career?
In what league?
NFL.
Okay. Not the NFL. I won't go with him there.
I mean, we've seen this, like Josh Gordon was here, Kelvin Benjamin was here. Like, there are reasons these guys end up here and the Chiefs take a swing at them, which I don't hate. But that's because the Chiefs are picking 32nd every year and they're just taking long shots at top end talent guys.
Yeah.
I didn't know Cordell Powell was still here. I was in the locker room last week and walked right past him. I thought, who is this number 14?
Practice squad.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh yeah, he's still around. By the way, Cam says maybe 750-5 for his whole career. I like that. Matt's sitting on his hands. Nobody's putting their hand in the air on this one. I don't see it happening. Is the real Chiefs defense, Jeff? Is it what we saw in the first half, or is it what we saw in the second half against the Chargers?
I think it's what we saw in the second half. I feel like they're a top 5 defense now, but what I like about them is that they are very clutch. So when they get their backs up against the wall, when they have to make a play, they make a play. And it's not one of these things where it's a lucky situation or a bad decision by the quarterback. I mean, the Chargers had 3 opportunities in that second half to do something and either tie the game or get ahead. And every time they found a way to stop them. And so I feel like I like what Omenihu brought to it. We'll talk about him in a second. I like the way that they take pride in how they play. I say all the time, defense is just it's effort, it's execution, it's strategy, and it's talent. That's all it is. And so if you got guys who want to play well, or are going to play their roles right, and they're athletic, and you got a good D coordinator, you can do some things. So I thought that, what I think about this defense, the first half proved what I thought, which was that they can be got, that you can get some big plays against them, but you have to really scheme it well, and you have to hit on them. Justin Herbert missed a couple throws there. I remember the one specifically to Keenan Allen. He's wide open in the end zone, overthrew him. Same thing happened with Trevor Lawrence in the Jacksonville game. You can't miss opportunities against this group because it will come back to haunt you. Whereas in previous years, you could do that and you'd probably still get a score somehow.
Yeah. Eric, first half or second half?
Yeah, it's the second half. I think Jeff makes a really good point where, this is a defense, and I know you guys talked about it on the show yesterday. Curtis brought this up on 810. It's like they've somehow found a way to have elite caliber talent on that side of the ball while also having like really no weak links, right? We talk about Nick Bolton, the dislocated, and I give Nick Bolton a little bit of crap, but like if Nick Bolton missed time 2 years ago or last year, this defense would be an utter travesty. When Willie Gay missed time last year, they struggled, let alone Nick Bolton. And now they have depth, but they also, like Trent McDuffie making that tackle in the flat on Gerald Everett. People forget, but the game was 17-17. The Chargers are around midfield. He's one-on-one with the tight end, and like, he's one of their blue chip players, right? You put him in a position to succeed, and he's successful. Same thing with obviously Chris Jones, and so I think that they're a great and those big play players. I mean, I think about the Broncos game last year on New Year's Day, where it's just like he hasn't done anything all day, and he gets a sack on 4th down. Like when your defense is full of like average players that aren't weak, they don't make those plays, and when your defense is full of great players like 2018. Houston, Ford, guys like that, but they have weak links, they can get had. This defense is kind of the best of both worlds, where they're not exploitable, except for, as Jeff said, when a team executes perfectly, and they can also make aggressive plays themselves because they have superstar talent.
Yeah, I mean they're good at all 3 levels, right? Like I think that's one of the things. Eric, you're the guy who's beat the drum for a long time about defense being a zero hole, right? Like that's what you want. You want to be good everywhere. Better to be good everywhere than great a few places and terrible in a couple of spots, because NFL offenses will exploit you. Jeff, they is the secondary the strongest part of this defense right now?
No, it's the D-line. It's the D-line. Chris Jones, Omenihu there. I think Karlaftis has made some plays. I would say the linebackers, but Nick Bolton being out is a big difference for me in that regard. But somebody made the point here, and I love the signing when they got him. Drew Tranquill has been a huge part of what this defense has become, because they really can't be exploited in the passing game by running backs like they have in the past. They're very comfortable moving him in and taking Bolton off the field to play on passing downs. Secondary solid. Again, I think and I know people think you're being negative when you say this, but when they start seeing the Josh Allens and the Jalen Hurts and the Joe Burrows, guys who can move and throw, it's the only thing they haven't seen yet. It's a lot easier to play defense against stationary quarterbacks or quarterbacks who are like Russell Wilson, who are washed and don't even move that well anymore. Like, for whatever reason, and I don't get this, Justin Herbert is faster than Patrick Mahomes. Like, he timed like a 4.740 at the combine, and Mahomes was a 4.8. Yet he refuses to run. Trevor Lawrence ran a lot in college, but he refuses to run. And so when you have quarterbacks who, I felt in that game, the one of the biggest differences between Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, whoever you want to name who's in that guys who can move around. Herbert had a play inside the 10-yard line where he had a chance to step up in the pocket and run, and he tried to fit the ball into somebody who Willie Gay was covering. I forget who it was, and Willie Gay made a great play, knocked it down. And I'm like, if that's Mahomes, he might score on you. Like, he's taking the opportunity to make that play and get it done. Whereas Justin Herbert was like, I'll run, but I really want to throw. I want to go through my progressions. And that's the thing that I think a really good quarterback will do to you. In fact, it's probably why Zach Wilson had made plays against him as well. He had the legs to do it, and they moved him around. So I think that's the only thing they haven't shown yet, is dealing with that kind of a quarterback.
Eric, are you on Team D-line? I mean, I think, listen, I get that the D-line is getting home, and we know they work in concert together. Coverage, longer you cover, more time you got to get there with the pass rush, quicker you get there, less time you got to cover. They're each going to benefit from the other. But I think the coverage is really good. I think there's plenty of like look, and then, coverage sack, coverage pressure that's there. I think Jeff makes a great point. They haven't seen the great runners yet, Eric. But I'm a little more bullish on the coverage than Jeff is.
I think that the coverage allows them to do the stunt stuff that allows Chris to play edge at times. And, because the one thing is, in like 2021, they wanted to play Chris Jones at edge because they could not get an edge pressure, right? And he was horrible at setting the edge on early downs, so they scrapped the experiment and went with Melvin Ingram and stuff, and it wasn't great. But like, since the end of last year, they've been lining Chris Jones up against the tackle and having him bull rush. Now, to do that requires a good enough secondary to make the quarterback hold the ball. And so some of the stunts they're doing, some of the things that kind of free up a George Karlaftis. What did we say about George Karlaftis when he came out of Purdue? He's more Tom Bahali than he is Derek Thomas, right? And that, he needs a little extra second to get there, right? I actually think Felix, in his reps, looks more explosive off the ball, but he's not as polished late in the down. all of those things require the secondary to hold up. And when I look at this team, so look, Jeff's not wrong, but I also think that I think it's close. And if I had to break the tie, I would say secondary. Mike Edwards is better than any safety they've had for like the past half a decade. And he's playing dime for them. Obviously Shamari Connor's a draft pick that has started some games, not played in others. They have so much versatility too. When the slot receiver for the other team's big, they go with L'Jarius Sneed. When it's small, they go with Trent McDuffie. Like, they just have so many ways to beat you, and they make life easier on the D line, which I like. So I'm more secondary. I will say the most improved is quite easily linebacker. Willie Gay is nowhere close to the liability he's been the last few years. Tranquil is obviously better than any backup that they have had before. And I think Leo Chanel is a lot better than he was last year too.
Yeah. By the way, on Edwards, I'll throw love Jeff Chadiha. Jeff Chadiha was beating that drum as soon as they signed him as to what he could do and what he would mean. I remember that. Jeff was the one that sent me scramble. Like, oh wow, Jeff's big on this guy. I got to go find out. About like first blush, I was like, special teams. Jeff, you were the guy that was hype on Edwards from the get go. So I'll give you the credit on that one. You mentioned Omenihu. Is that the final piece for this defense? Listen, health's going to be a big part of it. We know San Francisco's battling injuries. The number of teams, Buffalo's taking on water. At some point, the Chiefs are going to take on some water as well. But Omenihu gets him even deeper along that defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, you watch him and he looks the part, right? He's long and he's athletic, and he's obviously had that big tip pass that led to the interception in the red zone. And I don't think he's got to be a superstar to be a good fit or a good signing. I think he just has to be a guy who comes in here and makes Chris Jones better and makes the other guys around him better and really plays his part well. And you saw it in that game, the way they're able to move him inside and outside and create matchup issues for people. To go back to what Eric was saying, that, I think it's the thing about the secondary that is a positive is that I think those guys are okay. I don't think it's like, Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard back there, guys are going to lock up people, but they disguise coverage so well that they're able to allow, as Eric said, these mismatches and these stuns in some of these games they want to play up front to play out. And so I think it was a really good signing, and I think he came in. It says a lot that he came in right away and had an impact. It didn't take him long to really prove that he could be a good part of this team.
Yeah. What do you think of Omenihu? Is he the final piece of the puzzle, Eric?
It helps. I mean, it really does allow. I mean, it just allows them to have save Chris for the playoffs too. Like, Jones last year played 250 more snaps than he ever had in any season he's ever played, and so like that's not sustainable year in and year out for a guy that's more of an 850 snap guy than a 1200 snap guy. And it lets, Felix Anazuke-Uzama, develop, 6 to 12 snaps a game. It helps, Karlaftis do some inside-outside stuff along with Omenihu. It really is it really does just help them in a lot of different dimensions.
Yeah. No, and I'll tell you what, Joe Cullen's name has been brought up a couple of times in the chat room. And Chris Jones immediately, when you ask anything about getting better or Joe Cullen's name is the first one that comes out of his mouth. Like, you can tell that Chris Jones, gives him a lot of credit for making him as good as he is. Chris Jones' work ethic and smarts are first and foremost, but Joe Cullen is clearly, in his mind, giving him a lot of tools. And I think you see that with Omenihu. Omenihu had 9.5 career sacks in 4 years.
Yeah.
4 games. Now, it's been one game, right?
He was very good. He was very productive as a rusher last year. But yes, he's not. We're not talking about Reggie White.
Yeah, that's and I'm not saying he sucked. He didn't. They didn't give him $10 million a year for a couple of years because he sucks. But if he ends up being a thing, the coaching and the developing, Eric, you've talked about it, how for a while they weren't developing anything. They're getting a lot better on the development side, and this looks like it could be another one of those guys. Now, listen, he's been suspended. I guess he's been practicing the last 2 weeks. Isn't that how it works, Jeff? You come in 2 weeks before the suspension's over. So he's been there for a little bit. But yeah, I think if you're the rest of the league, you're going, what? Now this too? Come on. Like, it's bad enough that the defense is already good. Now you're getting this part, getting this part of the equation figured out. Like, that's, that to me is significant. Now, listen, we're brought to you by GAN Asphalt and Concrete with free consultations, no commissions, in-house crew. Every project coming with a written warranty. Why would you trust your parking lot problems to anybody but GAN Asphalt and Concrete? The best in the business is GAN, keeping your parking lot safe, helping you focus on business, avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find them online at GANasphalt.com. GAN Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lots. The stat, somebody brought up the stat, I think it was shots from Football Outsiders. Aaron Schatz. Is it Schatz or Shots?
Schatz.
And that's what I said. And I was shouted down on my own radio show. That
you were shouted down?
Yeah, I just shats.
They shat at me on this. But Aaron Schatz had the stat that the Kansas City Chiefs are the first team 7 games into the season to be top 5 in offense, defense, and special teams this late in the year since the 1999 Rams. The other teams to do that, the 96 Rams, as we know, won the Super Bowl. 96 Packers won the Super Bowl. 91 Commanders won the Super Bowl in dominant fashion, by the way. 90 Giants won the Super Bowl. 85 Bears won the Super Bowl in dominant fashion. 84 Commanders did not. They were going for their 3rd straight NFC championship and were still a good team. That's pretty rare company to keep. I mean, you're the analytics guy, Eric. Do those numbers mean anything to you?
I'm super surprised the 1990 Giants had a top 5 offense, but yes, that's the one that surprises me. But no, I mean, special teams have been good this year. We haven't seen a lot of kickoff returns either. We haven't seen they're like the one team that's not like taking it out to the 14-yard line and all this nonsense. So I'm happy. I mean, look, you can't complain much. The fact is even going into last week, they were 4th in expected points added per play, right, on offense. So all this like gnashing of teeth about how poorly they played on that side of the football, and for the most part, like it's still been pretty good. This is just a down year for the league, interestingly, and like I think that the Chiefs' biggest issue will be not getting complacent.
Yeah. What does it say to you, Jeff?
Same thing. I mean, I think there's more parity in this league than at any point, I think, in the past decade. And I just feel like, the Chiefs are playing well. Like I said, I think that those numbers are skewed heavily by the Bears game and the Broncos game. Let's face it. I mean, when you're giving up 80-some yards to a quarterback and 18 points to 2 teams, that's going to help you out a lot. But the defense is certainly playing at a high level. The special teams have always been good. So I think that is well-deserved. But, again, I think at the end of the year, man, I think you're going to see a lot of teams have injuries. You're going to see a lot of teams start to figure some things out. And the usual suspects will be there. We'll talk about this in the next podcast, but, the Niners are going to be fine. The Eagles are going to be fine. The Dolphins will get healthier. The Bills will get healthier. The Bengals will figure out. The Ravens will be good. And then it just comes down to who's playing well in December and January. So I think that it's a nice thing to say, but, they're playing the weak part of their schedule right now. They should be dominating right now.
By the way, I'm not sure why Don is hitchhiking all the way to Las Vegas unless he lives someplace outside of the KC area.
And we got to pause. Vegas is fun to go to the pool. Vegas is fun to go somehow to your favorite spot in Moapa Valley and have Mexican food.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great hot chicken place. You can actually go, to In-N-Out Burger in Vegas if that's your betting on sports in Vegas. I'm gonna like newsflash and the secret for everybody. It's probably more fun in Kansas actually on the apps.
Yeah, you don't have to wait in line. You don't have to deal with attitudes.
And if you win a bet like that's happening during your flight, you don't have to like mail your tickets back. You can just
so there's no apps in Vegas. Is that what you're telling me?
No, there are not. There are, but you have to open an account with a brick and mortar casino in Vegas. So, like, I have a FanDuel account here in KC. I can't bet on FanDuel in Nevada. You have to go to a brick and mortar place and open your account, put money down in Nevada. They're doing that so that everything doesn't end up. They don't want all the hotel and casinos closing. Is basically
Why are we here spending all this money?
Yeah. I had the one I put up there. It says, talking about, probably until we segue into the AFC conversation. Well, the AFC West is over, though, right? Like 3 games clear. Nobody is coming out on that. And it doesn't look like, Jeff, they're not coming for years. Like the pieces are not in place. And Denver, I don't see enough out of Sean Payton, out of Russell Wilson, the way they're buried under that contract. The Raiders don't have their answer at quarterback and Jimmy Garoppolo. They don't have their answer at coach. Brandon Staley, we'll talk more about him later. I don't think he's long for the world. And Herbert,
he's long for the world. He looks in good shape and all that stuff. Yeah. For the NFL head coaching world, he's probably.
But the AFC West, like we wrote this question, like, is it over this year? Yes. But it's over for the foreseeable future, is it not?
I think if the Chargers get the right coach, they can be a player. I don't know who that is. Maybe it's Jim Harbaugh. I said on the radio this morning that it would not surprise me if he left Michigan after this year. They win a championship. A lot of his best players will be leaving. He showed up in San Francisco with a similar kind of situation where it was just like, man, this team is going nowhere. This Alex Smith is a mess. How do I make it work? And all of a sudden they were NFC championship, Super Bowl the next year.
What would be bigger though? Like the Bible, or if we printed out every time somebody said, if then the Chargers will be good. Yeah. If we printed that out and stacked it up, like Euclid's Elements wouldn't even stand as tall.
They were pretty good when Marty Schottenheimer was coaching the team, and then they got all screwed up with AJ
Jeff,
Smith.
I was a sophomore in college the year that Marlon McCree intercepted that ball and got stripped. That was the last, I was my first year in grad school, the last time they won the AFC West. They were saying, this team.
But they have a quarterback. That's the point I'm making.
Doubting Thomas, if we're going to get the scriptures here. I need this. I need to put my hand in Jesus' side before I believe the Chargers win an AFC West or anything of that nature.
They have not had a strong-willed, strong personality head coach since Marty Schottenheimer.
Yeah.
And that's one of the points that's been made. Mike Sando talks about this, that the Spanos don't want anybody who will stand up to them. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear. They want to tell their
coach. That's on them. Yep.
Yeah. So Jim Harbaugh. You can bring Jim Harbaugh. I mean, I'm I'm 100%. That's who they should go get.
Yeah.
Right. But if they're not ready to just hand the whole thing over to somebody, it won't work with Jim Harbaugh. He'll last 10 minutes and he'll stomp out of there. Yeah. But if they are, that's the guy they should get.
Well, and the problem they have is if you're Spanos family, you have to understand one thing. You're not winning over the LA market unless you put a winner on the field. You're not going to put a winner on the field unless you actually go hire a coach who's worth a damn, who can take over this team. Even Tom Telesco, who's done a good job of talent evaluation, is maybe you got to get him out of there too. I just feel like I agree with you. The Broncos and the Raiders are toast. Like the way they've built those teams, the way that things are set up, the contracts and the coaching is just too much of a mess to get figured out. But the Chargers, with the right coach, could get things figured out in a hurry. It's the problem I had with watching them, and I think someone agreed with me on Sunday, was that, man, you're watching Joey Bosa, Pro Bowl talent, do nothing. You're watching Khalil Mack, who had 6 sacks, you always get vanish. Derwin James is hurt. I mean, you go down the line and you're sitting here saying they got a lot of guys that people would love to have, but they're not getting.
Corey Linsley's been hurt.
It's
just Rashawn Slater's a first-round pick that has done nothing. Not done nothing, but hasn't been on the field nearly. It's just the Chargers are one of those day late and a dollar short teams. There's always something that keeps them, it's maddening. And I don't know if they're willing to do what it takes from that perspective, from the head coach perspective. Because
as much as
quarterback makes $50 million.
Yeah, as much as people crap on Jerry Jones, the thing I'll say about Jerry Jones is he will do whatever it takes to try to win games. He will pay people. He will spend money like crazy. He will pay coaches. Like he will. I'd rather have an owner like that than an ownership that will just say, "Well, we don't want to have somebody who's going to give us a problem. It's going to be high maintenance."
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, do you want to win or not? That's and like their games are embarrassing. How the Steelers outdrew the Rams.
Yeah,
they had more Steeler fans than Rams fans, and the Rams are the team that LA likes.
Yeah,
Chargers forget about it.
Yeah,
they won a Super Bowl 2 years ago.
I know.
And they can't even draw like when the Niners go there, it's red.
Tell me this: the Chiefs go to the Broncos, Jeff. They'll play twice, and the second time in 15 days. Does that give the Broncos any better chance or less of a chance?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's going to be the same kind of a game. I think they'll try to muck it up. I think they'll try to run the football. For some weird reason, they played 2 good defensive games back to back. Or better than what they were playing. I'll put it that way. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the Chiefs were gonna. I mean, they should be fine against them. It's just there's not enough good things happening in Denver to believe that's going to be anything more than just an easy win. I picked them 21-13, the Chiefs this morning. I'll stick with that. I don't know what I think the line's 8, right? 8.5 or whatever.
Eric, any reason to think that this game will be what? Same kind of replay? Jeff sounded like the same kind of game.
Somebody did bring up a good point, G0053 on the Twitch, where he said, could they be looking ahead to the Tyreek Hill, rematch? The travel. Like I'm guessing that like a decent amount of logistics have to be done before they leave for Denver this week, before they go, So there could be like a looking ahead situation there. Russell Wilson has not played awful this year. So, and he's kind of a big play guy. And, now like when you look at him, he's kind of play action moonball guy. So yeah, anything can happen. I mean, I make the game 9. So like, I think that you're looking at maybe like a 32-23 type of, win. And, like they didn't play great against Denver last year, either game. So it is something to monitor.
By the way, did any of us get the score right last week? I feel like one of us must have, and that's why
I had 21-20.
I had 31-13, I think. So I was close.
I think I might have had 31-17. I don't even remember. I wanted to just put that out there like I got it right. I don't know. Listen, I cover your ears, Chiefs fans. I think the Chiefs are going to absolutely annihilate the Broncos. I think they are rolling, and I think it's time to start beating down some ass, and I think it happens in this game.
They've been beating ass all year.
Listen, I'm talking like 41-13.
You want a Bears game? The Bears beat down.
I think it's coming. Listen, when I look at the talent on the Broncos, it's not very good. Like they're not a talented team. This idea that there's all this talent there, all the great players on defense, they're pretty much gone. They just lost their safety for 4 weeks. I mean,
they're selling parts for sure, right?
Yeah, and I don't see how they're going to circle the wagons and let's win one for Coach Sean, who's been a boob all year. I don't see it. Like I think they're bailing. I like Chiefs 41-13. I think they roll big, and I don't see. Could it happen? Could they get dragged down into a rock fight? Sure, they could. It's a divisional game. Broncos know them pretty good, but I think the blowout. Let the beatings begin. I like this one, 41-5. There you go. Always a weird score.
Soren loves his college scores. He loves those Oklahoma versus Texas A&I games.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Well, listen, what's the point if you think someone's going to win and cover easily? What am I going to do? Pick them by by 10? It's no fun. Let's
play to the defense, man.
They stop people now. They stop people. Listen, if you want to stop problems in your parking lot, that's our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. They're the best when it comes to taking care of any and all parking lot problems. Listen, it's the first impression you're going to make is when somebody drives into your business. If you own your business, if you manage a business, and you want to make sure your clients, your customers are happy, make sure you give them a smooth, brightly striped parking lot. Gann Asphalt and Concrete specializes in that year-round. All things parking lot, only one name you got to remember, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Eric Eager from Sumer Sports, my name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City, saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red Gold and Bold.